Romeo and I had been in love for 3 years. I had a strong desire to share everything. At the beginning, we really did talk about anything and everything. Now, even if I only asked him during dinner whether he was tired today, he would get annoyed. A car accident left him unable to hear, and left me unable to speak. But I heard his secretary ask him, "Romeo, since you can hear now, why are you still hiding it from Miriam? I don't know when she'll recover. I'll keep pretending for now, so she won't bother me," he answered so matter-of-factly. From then on, I never said another word to Romeo. Chapter 1. Romeo and I had been in love for almost 3 years. I was someone with a very strong desire to share. At the beginning, we talked about everything. Sometimes, we could chat until 1 or 2 in the morning. But now, even if I only asked him during dinner whether he was tired from work today, he would become so annoyed that he frowned. This relationship was on the verge of collapse, but I still wanted to find a way to save it. I suggested that on the day of our 3rd anniversary, we drive to the seaside together. Romeo stayed silent for a while, then agreed, but added one condition. For the week before that, "Don't bother me." When he said this, there was no expression on his handsome face. It was as if he were exchanging 7 days of quiet before the road trip for 1 day of noise. As fair as a business deal, for 7 whole days. I held back from seeing him and did not say a single word to him. But, unusually, he asked me out for dinner on the 5th day. He cut the steak on his plate in a refined manner. Then he joked, "It would be great if we could keep meeting only once every few days in the future." I instantly lost my appetite. Only after seeing that I had taken just a few bites did he try to smooth things over, saying it was only a joke. But when he said those words just now, there had clearly been a smile in his eyes. Chapter 2. On the day of the road trip, I still got up early to start preparing some simple packed meals. I spent an hour choosing clothes and half an hour doing my makeup. By the time Romeo came to pick me up, he was already half an hour late. He did not feel sorry, and he did not even notice my new dress. He took the tote bag from my hand and silently put it in the trunk. "Romeo, do I look good today?" Without even raising his head, he said, "You look good." The scenery along the way was beautiful, but the two people in the car were both weighed down by their own thoughts. At the beginning, Romeo would speak to me, though only a few words. Later, he could not hold back anymore and became more and more impatient. I thought there was no need to save this relationship anymore. "Romeo, let's break up." I had clearly said we should break up calmly, without arguing or making a scene. But somehow, I touched some nerve in Romeo. He suddenly became angry, and I no longer endured it either. I spoke about the cold violence he had subjected me to over the past 6 months. After hearing what I said, he gave a disdainful cold laugh. "Do you know? Sometimes I even wish you were mute." The temperature that day was clearly mild, yet I still felt a chill through my whole body. I remembered that at the very beginning, when I asked him why he liked me, he had clearly said it was because the dimples at the corners of my mouth were very cute when I talked. Then why don't you simply become deaf? Wouldn't that be much quieter? Our argument became more and more intense. Romeo pressed hard on the accelerator, and because he was distracted, we got into a car accident. Subconsciously, he still lunged toward my side and protected me. Chapter 3. The words we used to curse each other still came true. After the car accident, Romeo suddenly lost his hearing, and his left leg and ribs were fractured. My throat was cut by the shattered car window, and I could not speak. Fortunately, I only had minor scrapes, and that was also thanks to Romeo protecting me. I placed the dishes I had made in front of him. "You've worked hard. Next time, you don't have to cook. Just order delivery." He had not spoken to me so peacefully in a very long time. I shook my head and typed on my phone, "It's fine. Food I make myself feels safer." These past few days, the atmosphere between us had been very pleasant. Neither of us mentioned what had happened in the car. It had even somewhat returned to the way things were when we were passionately in love at the beginning. The doctor checked his wounds and body as usual. "Lean your body forward a little." I had just been about to support Romeo, but he moved forward slightly on his own, as if he could hear. After the examination, I typed and asked him, "Can you hear now?" His expression remained normal, and I did not see the fleeting panic in his eyes. No, I read his lips. Seeing that it was about time, I went home to cook. When I reached the door, I ran into his secretary reporting work to him. The secretary bent down beside his ear and explained the contents of the contract to him. He listened carefully and even pointed out a few problems. Romeo, hasn't your hearing recovered? Why are you still hiding it from Miriam? I don't know when she'll recover. I'll keep pretending for now, so she won't annoy me, he answered so matter-of-factly, without the slightest attempt to hide it. All the beautiful illusions were shattered by that one sentence. I suddenly lost all strength, and even deceived myself by fantasizing that it would have been better if the person who could not hear anything had been me. Chapter 4. I calmed down for a few minutes. Then I took the lunchbox and went in, arranging everything as I had before. Romeo ate quietly. I took out my phone. Has your hearing recovered a little? The chopsticks in his hand did not stop picking up food. He showed no sign of guilt at all. No, I can't hear anything. All those dense, intertwined memories and sweetness from the past were, at this moment, actually no match for the 3 words "can't hear anything." It was as if my heart had been brutally tied into a knot and tightened with force. I could only do my best to suppress this discomfort. I did not want to lose composure, nor did I want to lose in front of him in such an ugly way. Romeo, since you don't want to hear me speak, then from now on, I will never speak to you again. I calmly watched him finish eating and packed up the lunchbox. At noon, the sunlight was at its best. I sat on a bench in the hospital garden, enjoying the warmth brought by the sun. Suddenly, there was another person beside me. A strange person. He had the appearance of a cold, handsome guy whom strangers should not touch. Yet he was wearing an ill-fitting hospital gown. As soon as he sat down, he started chattering non-stop. I looked around in confusion. There was no one else. Could he be talking to me? I really want to eat ice cream. As he spoke, he suddenly blurted out such a nonsensical sentence. If you want to eat it, then go buy it. When I opened my mouth to speak, my throat still hurt a little, and my voice was terribly hoarse and unpleasant, but I still could not help responding to him. Chapter 5. He looked at me in surprise and delight. So you can talk. I thought you were mute. I had wanted to keep speaking, but my throat suddenly hurt so much that it felt unbearable. I took out my phone and typed, "My throat is injured. I can't speak for now." His expression looked very regretful. I thought I had finally found someone who could chat with me. I can type. Say whatever you want to say. When he saw this sentence, he became energized. So it turned out he had still been holding back earlier. I even suspected he might have been locked up before, as if he had not seen another person in years. Only, after he finished speaking, he still had to wait a few dozen seconds to watch me type. So it gave him a chance to rest. He made me laugh several times. For once, I forgot the unhappiness of these past few days, and the words I typed became more and more. Miriam, come here. The caregiver pushed Romeo over. The 2 of them were not far from me. My good mood was ruined at that moment. Romeo told the caregiver to leave first, and I pushed him for a walk in the garden. Miriam, I haven't seen you smile that happily in a long time. When I recover, let's go to the seaside together again. His back was to me, so he could not see my expression, and I was too lazy to smile. Was he saying such things now because of guilt, or because of some inexplicable possessiveness? Chapter 6. After thinking it over, I decided to wait until Romeo recovered before bringing up the breakup. After all, his injury was partly because of me. Romeo seemed even busier than before. His secretary had to come and go several times every day. It was just hard on them, having to pretend they could not hear in front of me. The secretary had barely left when he tiredly pinched the space between his brows. I walked over and helped massage his temples. He suddenly raised his head and kissed me on the lips. I instinctively dodged. My dodging seemed to make things rather awkward. Romeo did not say anything either. Instead, I myself felt uncomfortable and left the hospital room. This entire floor was made up of private rooms with excellent privacy, and the corridor was very quiet, aside from the occasional sounds coming from the service desk. Only now, those sounds were becoming more and more frequent. I turned my head to look. Unexpectedly, a familiar figure appeared at the service desk. The boy I had met in the garden last time was pulling a nurse along, saying who knew what. I could not help coughing twice. The boy noticed me and walked toward me. The two nurses also looked as if they had finally breathed a sigh of relief. I asked him what illness he had. He said his name was Diego, and that he had been accidentally injured while trying to break up a fight by the roadside. He vividly told me about the process of trying to mediate the fight, and how he had somehow been stabbed in the abdomen for no reason. I found him both pitiful and funny. As he spoke, he suddenly put away his smile, his expression turning a little serious. Do you think I talk too much? I shook my head. It's very interesting. This reminded me of when I had just gotten together with Romeo, and I asked him whether he would find me annoying. It seemed that he had answered the same way. Chapter 7. Romeo was discharged from the hospital. As long as he walked slowly, his leg would not be affected much. Only, from the hospital to his home, during the 47-minute journey, he did not ask me once how my throat was recovering. Actually, as long as he cared even a little and asked the doctor, he would know that I could speak now. He did not, because he liked the current me better. I finished cooking and watched him finish eating. Why are you looking at me like that? I typed, let's break up. Romeo took a deep breath. His expression was displeased, and the fingertips of his right hand tapped the tabletop without rhythm. This was how he showed impatience. Why? It's too quiet. He gave a disdainful cold laugh. Thinking this was an absurd reason, he still thought I was throwing a tantrum. Suit yourself. Romeo only replied coldly. But in these 3 years, no matter how angry I had been, I had never mentioned breaking up. I could not be bothered to pack up the things I had left at his house either. I took my everyday bag and left, just like the first time I came to his house 3 years ago, simply carrying a bag over my shoulder. He quietly watched me leave, without a single word asking me to stay. He really was cruel. Chapter 8. Romeo watched Miriam's departing back. An indescribable irritation filled his heart. Clearly, he had long since been tired of her, but his mind was filled with the image of her from before, lying in his arms and chattering nonstop. So vivid, so alive. She, who loved talking the most, now could not open her mouth. She could only type words one by one. Let's break up. Those words, however, had been typed neatly and decisively. Just like that, she carried a small bag, wanted nothing, and left without looking back. He himself could not say even half a word to make her stay. Why had it suddenly become so quiet? So quiet that it made Romeo annoyed. Chapter 9. There did not seem to be any withdrawal reaction either. Just like that, I calmly accepted the breakup. I had not gone to my own studio in a long time. As soon as I entered, I saw that all the employees were worrying. It turned out they had taken on a major project. We discussed it together for a long time before finally sorting out the general direction of the work that followed. I had spoken too much. My throat hurt badly, and a taste of blood surged up. I still had to go to the hospital. My phone suddenly rang several times. It was Diego. After I added him as a friend last time, he would send me messages from time to time. The chestnut cakes on the street had just been made and were still steaming. I bought a box, planning to take it to Diego. With his personality, he was probably bored out of his mind. Who knew how long he would drag me into talking this time? As soon as I arrived at the hospital entrance, I saw that he was already waiting for me. Beside him stood an impatient old man. He was probably another innocent passerby, an old man whom Diego had forcibly dragged over to chat with. After examining me, the doctor prescribed medicine and reminded me that I could not speak at all for the next week. I had not even become disappointed yet, but Diego became disappointed first. Not being able to talk really is a terrible thing. I was too busy laughing and did not even notice when someone tripped me. Diego immediately held me up, his right hand tightly locking around my shoulder. Miriam, what are you doing? Not far away. Romeo was staring at me and Diego, suppressed anger in his voice. Chapter 10. I had not even had time to type. Diego spoke first. What else can you do at a hospital besides see a doctor? Come here to eat? His tone was careless and flippant, unpleasant just to hear. Romeo was not in a hurry either. He slowly walked over and saw the medicine in my hand. He did not answer Diego's question. I did not know whether he was still pretending to be deaf. What's wrong? Is your throat uncomfortable again? You really love asking useless questions. Isn't it obviously uncomfortable? Otherwise, Why would she come to the hospital? Did you really think she came here to eat? Romeo had probably never been mocked like this before. He clenched his teeth tightly. He directly grabbed Diego by the collar, and the veins on his arm bulged from anger. Diego still had an injury on his abdomen. I was so anxious that I went to pull Romeo's hand away. He refused to let go no matter what, while Diego looked at him with complete indifference. Anxious, I cried out, and my throat began hurting again. I coughed up a little blood, staining my lips. Only then did Romeo let go, looking at me anxiously. A faint red color seeped into Diego's blue hospital gown. His wound had probably reopened. I hurried to find a doctor, but Romeo grabbed my hand and refused to let me leave. I used force and pushed him. His fracture had not healed yet, and he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Seeing his face turn pale from pain, I still could not bear it and wanted to help him up. But Diego suddenly clutched his abdomen and cried out in pain. I could only call a nurse to help Romeo, while I supported Diego and went to find a doctor. The doctor rebandaged his wound and told him to lie down properly and stop moving around. I walked out of the hospital room and saw Romeo sitting outside the door. Chapter 11. He raised his head. I held my phone up to him. Can you hear now? His gaze dodged mine, and he did not answer my question directly. Instead, he asked me, "Is your throat okay?" I thought for a moment and still did not want to tell the truth. The doctor said I won't be able to speak for a very long time. He actually showed a trace of heartache. I'll take you to a better hospital for treatment. How strange. Now he was starting to put on an act. Isn't this just right? I won't annoy you this way. He looked at the line of words before him and fell silent for a few seconds. Then he gave a bitter laugh. Is there really no chance for us anymore? When you say that, don't you feel guilty yourself? Back then, Romeo had clearly pursued me because of my outgoing personality. Now that we had separated, I was so silent I could not say a single word. Romeo was unwilling to accept it, but what he could not let go of was only those 3 years. I'll make it up to you. After saying this, he staggered to his feet. When the nurse saw him and wanted to support him, he only refused. He was still that stubborn, walking into the distance step by step. His steps were steady, and there was no sign that he had a fracture. I did not know how much strength he used to endure the pain, just like me now, suppressing my sinking emotions, stubbornly refusing to let tears fall. How meaningless. Chapter 12. It was my older brother's birthday, and he invited quite a few people. Among them was Romeo. After all, in the beginning, he had met me through my brother. Now that we had broken up, my brother was afraid things would be awkward between us, so he separated us quite far apart. Actually, it was rather unnecessary. Among adults, after breaking up, how could there be so much embarrassment? I casually picked up a glass of wine and was just about to drink it. A hand with distinct knuckles took the glass away. Your throat isn't well, so don't drink. At some point, Romeo had sat down beside me. The dim light fell on the side of his face. He looked lazy and distant, and he seemed to have lost some weight. He took the glass and drank it all in one go. This wine is pretty strong. I did not listen to him and picked up another glass, then drank it down. It was indeed pretty strong. So stubborn. Are you deliberately making things hard for yourself? I stood up and walked past him. He grabbed my arm. I fell into his arms, and it really felt uncomfortable. I freed my right hand, picked up a glass of wine, and splashed it onto his face. He wiped his face and pushed the hair on his forehead back, but he still refused to let go of my other hand, as strong as the wine. Just as I was about to break free, my brother called my name. Romeo had no choice but to let go. Chapter 13. At the door, Diego pushed it open and came in. My brother wrapped an arm around his shoulders and introduced him to me. Diego, a friend I just met. He's ridiculously funny when he talks, just like you. He's a chatterbox. I glared at my brother. Oh, right. My sister injured her throat and can't talk. This world really was frighteningly small. Even here, I could run into him. Diego sat there, holding a wine glass, without that ill-fitting hospital gown. He was dressed casually. He actually looked quite proper. Handsome enough, of course, provided he did not open his mouth to speak. I pointed at his abdomen. He sensibly put down the wine glass and focused on the fruit platter instead. Ever since he was discharged from the hospital, he would come to my studio whenever he had time, saying I was his kindred spirit. At first, when my employees saw a handsome guy, they were all quite happy. They chatted with him and bought coffee. At the beginning, Elise even blushed when she talked to Diego, but only a few days later. Now, whenever they saw him come in, each and every one of them would pretend to work hard. They were afraid of getting stuck with him. Diego was a little hurt and asked me why. I could only say we had taken on more work recently, but they were also quite happy for him to come. After all, every time, he would bring some cake, milk tea, and the like. Diego was still talking there when Romeo stuck himself to us again like a piece of dogskin plaster. Chapter 14. Isn't this that brainless guy from the hospital? As soon as Diego opened his mouth, Romeo's expression darkened at once, but Diego was too lazy to pay attention to him. As usual, he talked beside my ear about what he had done today. Romeo insisted on cutting in from time to time. At first, it was just simple bickering, and there was nothing much to it. But then Romeo suddenly said to me, "He talks so much. Don't you find him annoying?" What a stomach-turning sentence. It was as if he were talking about the old me. The moment he said it, he understood too, and even if he wanted to argue, he had no confidence. I left the room and sat outside. There were not many people on the street. It was empty. I smelled alcohol. Diego had still drunk some wine. He draped his coat over me and sat beside me. By now, no matter how slow I was, I understood that Diego was interested in me. I guess the main reason my brother had brought him here was to introduce him to me. Tentatively, I leaned my head against his shoulder. I felt his muscles tense, and it stayed like that for 5 minutes. He actually did not say a single word. It was quite interesting. Chapter 15. Diego, you're very stiff. There were only the two of us around, and I spoke. Diego's face instantly turned red. He lost that social butterfly air of his and started stammering. I was so amused that I laughed out loud, then took out my phone and snapped a photo of him. Next time, I'm going to show Elise and the others what you look like. Miriam, you can speak now? Romeo's surprised voice came from behind me. Miriam, you're better now, right? Miriam, why are you ignoring me? Diego stood in front of me. If you had cared even a little and asked the doctor, you would have known Miriam could speak a long time ago. Romeo did not look embarrassed at all. Instead, he asked back, "What does that have to do with you?" Diego raised an eyebrow, his voice full of confidence. Of course it has something to do with me, because Miriam is willing to speak to me, not you. That was the truth, and Romeo instantly lost his confidence. Miriam, do you really have to be like this? At the beginning, we also talked about everything. Do you think that if you're with him, he won't find you annoying in the future? If at first I had only been disappointed in this relationship, now I was disappointed in him as a person. The person I had loved for 3 years was actually this shameless. I'm different from you, because what I'm afraid of is Miriam finding me annoying. I pulled Diego back into the room. Romeo did not follow us again. Chapter 16. My brother was quite drunk, half lying on the sofa. Diego and I spent a great deal of effort carrying him home. I lived downstairs from my brother, and Diego still shamelessly tried to come in for a cup of tea, but I drove him away. As soon as I entered, someone held me tightly, a familiar deep woody fragrance. Romeo lowered his head and pressed toward me. I desperately dodged and bit his lips until they bled. Romeo wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, but the smile did not reach his eyes. Even like this, you still refuse to make a sound. Just how much do you hate me? I still did not speak. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. If I had known, I would have let Diego come in. How annoying. From now on, I won't find you annoying anymore, okay? You can say whatever you want. Do you really have to be like this? Not saying a single word. Are you trying to drive me insane? How ridiculous. Romeo seemed to have forgotten that, during those past 6 months, he had watched me go insane just as calmly. Seeing that I remained unmoved, he came over again to hug my waist. I slapped him directly across the face. He touched his cheek. Miriam, you're fucking heartless. The tears at the corners of my eyes still fell uselessly. Sourness spread from my heart to my throat. He wanted to reach out and wipe my tears, But I dodged him. He clenched his fist, then released it. Then he slammed the door heavily and left. I lost all strength and sat on the floor, my right hand still aching and numb from using too much force. Chapter 17. The delayed side effects of the breakup made me sink completely into negative emotions. I did not go to the studio for a long time, nor did I pay much attention to Diego. Seeing how decadent I looked, my brother still dragged me to a business banquet. I instinctively refused. I did not expect him to directly threaten me. Do you still want to keep that shabby studio of yours open? If you don't go, I won't invest money anymore. In order to let my employees receive their salaries on time, I still forced myself to go. As soon as we arrived, my brother abandoned me there alone. From time to time, people came over to talk to me. At one glance, I could tell it was my brother's instruction, because everyone's opening line was, "Miriam, you look truly beautiful tonight." I had no choice but to hide in a corner and play with my phone out of boredom. In the distance, Romeo was being held by a girl. The handsome man and beautiful woman looked quite well matched. At one glance, the girl was a gentle, refined young lady from a good family. It was just that her taste was as bad as mine. We had both taken a liking to Romeo. I looked around. There were several people who looked familiar. I was not surprised that Diego was at this kind of event, nor was I surprised that he had a female companion beside him. What surprised me was that he kept a stern face the entire time, and the suit on his body was perfectly proper. It was a side of him I had never seen before, noble, cold, and aloof, attracting several girls' sideways glances. When the girl beside him said something, he answered with one sentence. That could count as him being able to endure it. Instead, I was the one who could not keep watching. I turned around and went to the balcony. Chapter 18. On the balcony, a man was smoking. When he saw me come over, he put out the cigarette. "Getting some air?" I nodded. He seemed unused to standing alone with me, and after only a few minutes, he left. The rain started falling without warning. Raindrops hit the railing and splashed onto me, cold and damp, very uncomfortable. I took a few steps back and fell into a warm embrace. Diego wrapped an arm around my waist and did not speak either. The atmosphere was silent, so awkward it was unbearable. "I'm leaving." "Then go." Diego said he was letting me leave, but the strength in the arm around my waist did not lessen at all. "Why aren't you leaving?" Diego asked knowingly. I softened my attitude. "Is it okay if I can't bear to leave?" I looked at him. His eyes were damp, and my reflection filled his pupils. "Didn't you bring a female companion? Why did you still come looking for me?" "That's my sister. She said if I dared say even one more word, she'd beat me to death." I could not help laughing out loud. "And you're laughing. You've been ignoring me." Diego's fingertips rubbed against my cheek. This time, he was not shy. Looking at him like that, I could not hold back and kissed him. His lips still carried the taste of champagne, sweet and light. I had not even drunk anything, so why did I feel so drunk that my legs went weak? After a long while, Diego came back to his senses. "If you kissed me, you have to take responsibility. Then let's kiss a little longer." I grabbed his tie and kissed him again, fiercer, harder, until my lips went numb. Chapter 19. After we confirmed our relationship, Diego insisted that I go visit his company. I could not win against him, so I also cut some fruit and brought it over for him. The atmosphere in the company was different from what I had imagined. I thought that with Diego's personality, the company as a whole would be quite relaxed. Unexpectedly, as soon as I entered, everyone had their heads lowered and was busy working. The only sound was the tapping of keyboards. It seemed I still did not know Diego well enough. Afraid of delaying his work, I did not stay long before leaving. Only after getting into the car did I realize that I had left my lipstick in Diego's office. I hurried back to get it, and just as I reached the door, I heard all kinds of chatting voices. Diego was standing outside the office, eating fruit, like a peacock spreading its tail. Whenever someone passed by, he had to say, "My girlfriend gave it to me." I was still hesitating about whether to go in when a girl happened to come out and met my eyes. "Miriam, why did you come back again?" Without exaggeration, in 1 second, everyone fell silent. I had no choice but to brace myself and go in to take my lipstick. When I left, Diego was still standing at the door, not yet recovered from the shock. Chapter 20. I had not even had time to return to the studio and tell them about this funny incident when Elise told me that Romeo's assistant had brought a contract and wanted to invest 20 million in the studio. There was actually such a good thing. If it was free, why not take it? Elise hesitated a little. There's just one condition. He wants to see you and sign the contract in person. Getting 20 million for free just by meeting him once, no matter how I looked at it. It was not a loss. I arranged to meet him at a restaurant with good privacy. I handed him the contract and pen. He took the pen but refused to sign for a long time. 20 million in investment. And it still can't be exchanged for one sentence from you? I shook my head and got up, wanting to leave. Romeo still took a step back. Eat this meal with me, and I'll sign. I called the waiter over and ordered a few dishes I liked. In the past, you always ordered the dishes I liked first. I remember once, when we were eating, you asked me whether I was tired that day. At that time, a collaboration had given me a headache, but I took it out on you and told you to shut up. You were so hurt that you did not say another word. I clearly knew you were waiting for me to coax you, but I just refused. Romeo kept talking about our past. Actually, he had always known everything in his heart. He had merely relied on the fact that I loved him and recklessly consumed my love for him. The dishes were soon all served, but Romeo still did not pick up his chopsticks. Miriam, I regret saying that sentence so much. Was it only that sentence? I handed the contract to him, and he gave a self-mocking laugh. He picked up the pen in his hand and lowered his head to look at the contract. After waiting several minutes, he finally signed his name with trembling hands. He did not raise his head and handed the contract to me. You go first. I walked outside and opened the contract. His handwriting was no longer as casual as it usually was. It looked as if he had written it stroke by stroke with solemn care. Beside his name, there was also a tear stain that had not yet dried. The sunlight shone on that spot, making it dry and wrinkle, just like our feelings, which could no longer be iron smooth. Regret came too late, and hatred would not fade. Chapter 21. Only after Romeo made sure Miriam had left did he dare raise his head, the corners of his eyes red. Looking utterly pathetic, she still refused to forgive him. She was unwilling to say even one sentence. Romeo looked at the dishes in front of him, the ones Miriam liked, as if they had never been touched. He packed them up and carried them home. The room had not changed from before. It still looked the same. All the things Miriam had bought were still there. The little bare pillow on the sofa, the yellow ceramic cup on the coffee table, and the pink stickers pasted on the glass of the wine cabinet. After 3 years, he had long since grown used to Miriam being by his side. He just did not know when it had started. On one hand, he had grown tired of Miriam's endless talking, and on the other, he could not help regretting it. Were feelings always this hurtful in the end? Miriam spoke less and less, and the communication between them had become better than nothing. The house was clearly filled with things belonging to two people. Yet at this moment, there was only Romeo's breathing. It was terrifyingly quiet. Romeo collapsed by the doorway, filled with both hatred and regret. Chapter 22. There was a newly opened milk tea shop. There were many people lining up. I really did want to try it, but I was too lazy to wait. Diego disagreed and said he would line up. I saw a place selling chestnut cakes not far away. I remembered that Diego had seemed to like them quite a lot before. While he was lining up, I went to buy some. When I came back, I saw Diego arguing with someone. It turned out someone had cut in line. Although it was called an argument, it was actually more like Diego condemning them one-sidedly. That couple was scolded by Diego until they could not even raise their heads. I remembered that Romeo and I had once had a similar experience before. Because someone cut in line, I was so angry that I argued with them. I clearly won, but Romeo said it was unnecessary, and that making a scene in public was embarrassing. This time seemed to overlap with that previous scene. Only this time, Diego and I were both winners. Chapter 23. Recently, my brother had no idea what had gotten into him. He insisted on working out, shouting that he wanted to build a body full of hard muscle. He failed to build the muscle, pulled a ligament, and ended up in the hospital again. By coincidence, he was staying in Diego's old hospital room. Diego enthusiastically greeted those nurses. The nurses, however, were only SOSO in their response. They did not really pay attention to him. Afraid of getting stuck with him, people came in waves to visit my brother. I really did envy his popularity. Naturally, Romeo would not be absent from such an occasion either. He looked at my brother mockingly. "You're already this old. You should know better than to overdo it." My brother did not get angry either. He looked at Diego, who had just come in. "Oh, isn't this my new brother-in-law?" My brother really knew how to speak. He both hurt Romeo and put Diego in a good mood. Romeo could not stay any longer. My brother also insisted on drinking the bone soup I made. I had no choice but to let Diego watch him while I went to prepare it first. Romeo had not gone far, and I caught up with him in just a few steps. "Where are you going?" "Forget it. Pretend I didn't ask. Anyway, you won't answer me. I'm going to stew some soup for my brother." Romeo had not expected me to answer him. "You're willing to talk to me now?" I smiled and said goodbye to him. Chapter 24. At first, Romeo was very happy that Miriam was willing to speak to him, but when he saw the relieved look in her eyes, he understood. She had completely let go. Too lazy to hate, too lazy to resent. Chapter 25. It was my first time seeing Diego drunk. I did not know what kind of major business deal he had discussed to end up drinking like this. He sat quietly in the passenger seat, his eyes open, though I did not know what he was looking at. When I spoke to him, he did not react either, as if his brain had crashed. I leaned over to fasten his seatbelt for him. He turned blankly to look at me, then held me in his arms. The space inside the car was narrow, and our breaths intertwined. Diego's eyes were dark, and his Adam's apple moved up and down. He kissed my face, my lips, then my neck and collarbone. I was so nervous that I did not dare move around. My heartbeat quickened, and I was afraid someone would see us. I suspected Diego was not drunk at all. "If you keep kissing me, I'm leaving." When Diego heard this, he immediately stopped moving, his lips still resting on my collarbone. After that, he did whatever I told him to do and did not say a single word. Obedient to an extraordinary degree. The next day, when I told him about it, he said he did not remember anything, but his reddened ears betrayed him. After that, I deliberately got him drunk a few more times, and every time, he was just as obedient, only this time was different. He did not listen to me at all. He abducted me to the bed, and after waking up, he no longer pretended to be stupid. Extra. Diego's business grew bigger and bigger. He accepted an interview for a financial news program. The whole interview was very standard and proper. Only at the end did the host ask an unrelated question. "Mr. Diego, we've always heard that you and your wife have a very good relationship. May I ask, perhaps a little boldly, how have you maintained your relationship with your wife over all these years?" Without thinking, Diego glanced at me below the stage. "Because all these years, whenever there's gossip, we can talk about it until 2 in the morning. We also like bad-mouthing other people together." The host and the audience could not stop laughing. Only I was so embarrassed that I did not know what to do. And the cameraman even caught me on camera and put me on the big screen. That night, after we went home, I scolded Diego until 1 in the morning.